everyone, welcome back to another video. We are happy to be back, as always. And today we are going to be talking about some eye challenges in the workplace and visual challenges in the workplace.
I'd like to state how hard it was for me to not jump in and let Hannah take over the intro. I really wanted her to do it.
Yeah, and I think I did great.
You did. 10 out of 10.
Let's get right into it.
So obviously accessibility in the workplace is super important. I know Canada has an act or something now where all workplaces have to be fully accessible by, it was supposed to be 2020, but then they decided that it was going to be 2025. And we're just crossing our fingers that it doesn't get pushed again.
Yep.
Because, so this includes just like buildings having elevators, having ramps, having, I don't know if Braille signage is included in it.
It should be.
I think it is. Automatic door buttons, just like things like that. I think the thing was that they said it was too, like 2020 was too soon for like old buildings or whatever to get like elevators put in that was like not in the system. They couldn't get things approved fast enough. Whatever. But as someone who's had 2 jobs, I've kind of worked with different employers in kind of what works for me, and obviously there have been challenges, and so this is a few of them. So regarding our video last week, which was on why we're so tired and eye fatigue, so with, say, an office job where you're like sitting at a desk and probably looking at a computer all day or reading papers all day, as someone with a visual impairment, that is one of the like most eye straining jobs like out there, are like office jobs, because you're constantly trying to like, as someone with low vision, as someone who's blind, I can imagine that it's like just kind of exhausting in general, as being blind is, which we covered in last week's video. But like as someone who's visually impaired, I know like squinting and trying to read things, even with magnifiers, it's a lot of focusing.
Yeah, and also just the fact that it's hard to do because you're sitting down all day, not like just I couldn't do it.
We're
personally.
both super antsy and move around a lot. So that's, I mean, one of my jobs was a gymnastics coach, so one of the things was like sometimes we would like turn off half the, like a few of the lights because sometimes it was really bright. And other things just like being in a smaller space for kind of the accommodations. I mean, it was one of those jobs where like I never had to read paperwork. I literally, actually one of the things I was reading class lists. I'd get like the list of like which kids are in my group, and that was one of the things I had to like advocate for myself and be like, hey, this is size like 8. Can I have one that's not size 8 so that I can read it?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So another possible restriction regarding a specific example is this semester that we just finished, I had fashion, and that was like sewing most days and stuff, which was really fun. But I had that first period, which again, going back to eye fatigue and vision fatigue, was really good because in the morning I have, you know, my eyes are like ready to go and everything, so it was good to like focus, because when sewing, it can be like a lot of like smaller details, even though it's not like reading and like words on paper and stuff. It's more of like you have to like pay attention to the small details. So relating that to a possible career in the workplace and all that, it can, I don't know, I've considered it as a possible career. But again, there's those restrictions of, do I have enough energy within my eyes to be doing that all day, to be using, just because that would also be a very like tiring job, because you're always like, it's one thing to do that like first period for like an hour or so, and then it's another thing to be doing that all day long every day, where it seems like it's fun, but there are some things that aren't always accessible, that there are like restrictions on the job, and it's just like, you know, maybe I couldn't do that, or maybe I have to do that in a completely different way, or there's just sometimes restrictions.
There's actually a lot of people who are blind or visually impaired who are actually in the fashion industry and who have created their own lines with like braille embedded on it and things like that, and those are all really cool. There's also, I know a lot of people who do radio or like podcasts because it's completely auditory. So I know AMI Accessible Media Incorporated has an audio side of things, and it's just radio shows, and there's a lot of people in that because that's a very accessible job where it's audio, it's talking, literally, like they can do it so easily. So my other job was working at a summer camp. It was actually for individuals who are blind and partially sighted, which is kind of cool because I got to work alongside people who like were very similar to me. But it was a summer camp, and so it was outside a lot. And as somebody with light sensitivity, that was a little bit challenging. So I remember literally every time I went outside, it was sunglasses, visors, but even then I can like see a lot less outside. So it was, I had really good coworkers who were good at like helping me just kind of in the surroundings of like, oh, like where's this? Like I just can't see it, or can you help me with this because I can't see it. I think my favorite was I was docking a boat and I jumped off of the boat onto the dock and I nearly almost killed myself. I almost jumped into the ladder because it was a depth perception thing. It was actually really far away. And my boss was on there too. It was really funny. He was like, you're gonna die.
So, Emily, you have had many jobs.
Okay, two's not many.
Okay, yeah, two. That's still two more than me. So, are there any pieces of advice, because you've had two pretty good jobs where it's pretty good with your eyes and very accessible and everything. So is there anything that I should know as I'm starting to look for a job that maybe I should, like, types of jobs I should avoid, or like how to make certain jobs more accessible?
Well, definitely don't avoid jobs. Don't avoid any job. You can do literally any job that you want. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But know your accommodations. Know kind of what you need. I think that's a big thing going into it, because if you walk in and they're like, how can we help you? And you don't know, then that kind of puts a barrier on accessibility because they don't know how to help you. And that's the thing, is that some workplaces have experience with people with disabilities and they're like, hey, this worked for the last person, will this work for you? And they have kind of an idea of what you may or may not need. But some workplaces have never had somebody who's visually impaired and they're like, I don't know what to do. So sometimes you have to advocate and lead for yourself, and I think that's something that's really important.
Yeah, and I also think that, like, also when you have like a special one-on-one relationship, like with your boss or with like a specific coworker, it's easier and it's just more comfortable because you have that person that you feel that you can talk to, and it's like it's easier to talk to and it's less professional, which can sometimes be more like tense, and it's more relaxing, you know, having that person that you can feel that you can talk to if there's an accommodation that's not working or something's not working.
So it's turned into less of an I struggles in the workplace and more of just like working with the disability. Yeah. So one last note is transportation when getting to a workplace. One of the things for me is that we live out in the country in the middle of nowhere, so getting to work was really hard. A lot of times my parents had to drive me, but as I kind of became more independent and I wanted to do things myself, I actually went up to my O&M instructor and said, like, can you teach me the bus system so that I can get from my school to work afterwards, so that my parents didn't have to come drive me. So that's another thing that you have to take into consideration when looking for a job is, like, where is it? Can I get there with a bus, or am I gonna have to taxi? Because then that one place that I worked, which was just on the edge of the bus system, moved like 2 kilometers down the road, and all of a sudden I couldn't get there anymore because it was out of bus range, and that's why I had to stop working there, which was really sad because I actually loved it so much, but it wasn't accessible for me to get to anymore. Last note, not related to accessibility in the workplace, but this week, the first week in February, is White Cane Week!
Yay!
So I know we did a lot of stuff campaigning for this last year. We did like a booth at our school, and we even did a video on it last year, which, if I remember, I will link below on what White Cane Week is. But basically, the white cane is a mobility tool used by blind or low vision individuals to help them get around and navigate their surroundings. And this is kind of a week dedicated to that and the education of accessibility and blind, low vision individuals. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.